This is Nimblecork from Shylmagoghnar, and you're listening to the Dan Shan Show.
Hey Nem, how are you doing tonight, mate? Whereabouts in the Netherlands are you? Let's find out how you are.
Hi Dan, I am in the southern Netherlands, in Zuid-Limburg to be precise, which is a part of the Netherlands that's kind of its own country almost, I would say.
Right,
We
okay.
have a couple of provinces in the Netherlands that are kind of on their own, and Limburg is definitely one of those.
Without sounding too like stereotypical, are there a lot of tulip fields around?
Not where I live. Over here, it looks more like the Shire.
Yeah, the Shire without the
Yeah,
hills.
that's what I mean. It is a bit of a different place than what you would expect from the Netherlands.
I love the
It's about
Netherlands.
as far away from Amsterdam as you could be.
Oh, is that a good thing for you?
For me personally, it is. For other people, they see it as a vacation destiny, but not a place to live because nothing ever happens here, basically.
Now, before we get into the band Shylmagoghnar, I want to make sure I say it right? Because Shylmagoghnar, I know you're going to have been asked that many times. I don't find it hard to say it, to be honest with you. It looks right when I say it.
I feel the same way about it. You can either say Shylmagoghnar or Shylmagoghnar. Both
Yeah,
are
depends where you're
correct.
from, I suppose.
Exactly. Like here locally in the Netherlands, I would even call it Shylmagoghnar, but the Gogh thing is a
Gosh,
bit of a struggle for
yeah,
most folks. So Gog is absolutely fine. I mean,
absolutely.
it's a made up word, so it really is up to the
I mean,
to the
obviously,
speaker.
it's every DJ's nightmare when you kind of want to quickly look and you like have to look again, look again, look. You like it's like a football commentator with a big long Lewandowski name or something. You have to look 3 times. So, how did you get to the name? Let's just say that. I think I've read something about something to do with loads of syllables and stuff. And is that right? Yes.
Yes, that is correct. Truth be told, it's such a long time ago that I don't know the exact details anymore. But we were at first planning to use a more, let's just call it what it is, a more normal name.
Right.
But any word we could find in a dictionary, it felt used up. It already had a definition, and not just that, but let's be honest, there's a lot of bands out there.
Yeah.
So many of the great words are taken, and we wanted something that sounds and feels like it's coming from some kind of fantastical realm, some kind of
Definitely.
other world. Um, I really don't know why we exactly chose these syllables. All I remember is that we picked something which felt powerful to us, and I always compare it to a chant or a magical spell. And
Well, almost Tolkien kind of thing, you know.
yes, a little bit. Like he made up his own language,
Yeah.
and this was sort of the same thing for us, just not as in-depth as Tolkien, of course.
Now, before we get into talk about the music and everything, let's talk about the machinations of the band. You know, I believe you're now a one-man outfit now. Is
That's
that right?
correct.
You obviously used to be two of you. You met in high school, and you're based in the Netherlands. Tell us a little bit more about this. Expand on that a little bit.
Yes. So when we started out, the two of us, we were mainly into, let's see, how do I start? So yeah, we met up in high school, and we got connected to each other because we both were into metal, and I was a little bit into punk at the time. I started playing guitar, and my mate Kerge, he was already writing lyrics and performing screamed vocals.
Right.
He was always just, for example, I think he had some instrumental songs by bands like Dimmu Borgir and Cradle of Filth, and I'm sure there were others as well, maybe Opeth.
Mm.
And he would write his own lyrics and scream over those songs and send those demos to me. Back then, I must admit, I was not into screamed vocals, so it took a little bit of a while for me to get used to them. But at some point, I started writing demos, which were in the vein of death metal, black metal, and he just seemed like the obvious choice to ask to join that project,
Yeah.
and that's how we got off the ground. At that time, we weren't sure what we were going to do, whether we're going to record an album, whether we're going to play live, all that kind of stuff. We're kind of just winging it. So all the way through high school, it was just writing demos, writing lyrics, sometimes
Mm.
recording them, etc. Then at some point, I became very ill, so I had to give up my schooling and my job in healthcare. And that was a very difficult time for me. And at that point, the first album wasn't released yet. It was kind of just a pipe dream. But it was kind of the only option I had left. My entire dream to get started in the medical field was just suddenly taken away from me. And yeah, you kind of start to just look for other options then. And I could barely leave my house. So I started recording like crazy.
Right.
And I asked my bandmate Skirge, "Are you in it with me still? Like, I would really like to do this. I need to do this right now because
Mm.
otherwise I'm going insane." And he said yes, and that's how we did the first album together. Um, that ended up going very well because we put it on YouTube without really expecting anything.
Mm.
But back then, YouTube was working very well for bands to get discovered, and we did get discovered by lots of people. And also with that came record labels that were interested. And at some point, the record label Napalm Records was interested in us,
Mm.
which was a dream come true for us because we've
Absolutely.
always been a fan of a lot of their bands, really,
Yeah.
like bands
Yeah.
like Summoning and the likes.
Yeah.
And we were also looking for a label that could support us, even though I did not have the ability to play live because of said illness. And of course, since they had bands like Summoning, which were also a two-man project that, as far as I'm aware, never really performed live, it seemed like really the golden opportunity.
Mm.
So yeah, we signed with them. Everything went fine, and we released the album Transience through them. And also same story again. Very good reception. Very nice collaboration with the label. Sadly, at that point, my bandmate Skirge, he was moving to Poland from the
Right.
Netherlands.
Mm.
Poland has always had a very strong draw to
Connection.
him.
Right. Yeah.
But I mean, it's a very different country. It's a different
Yeah.
language,
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
culture.
Yeah. Very much.
To be honest, it swallowed him, dude. It just swallowed him whole, and
Wow.
he had real trouble finding his anything there. And I could really tell whenever we're speaking on the phone, we used to be super excited about anything we talked about, like especially when we were making our own music. It was always a great conversation. But the tone of the conversation shifted. I noticed that when I sent him demos and asked him, "Hey, what do you think?" The response kind of felt like he was slipping away from me,
Mm. Mm.
which was exactly what was happening. And
Mm.
he felt it too, and he
Mm.
hated it. He really did not want that to happen, but he couldn't do it. He didn't have the spark, he didn't have the fascination, and he just felt absolutely terrible. And at some point, I just really had to ask him, if you're
Mm.
feeling so bad doing this,
Mm.
should you really be doing this?
Yeah.
And his answer was, "I'm glad you asked because I've been really hesitant to say it, but I don't think I should be doing this anymore." And that's kind of how that ended.
So
Um,
how was that? How was that being? Did you feel quite isolated when that happened? You know, obviously you were doing it with your high school friend, and all of a
mm,
sudden you did it on your own. You're not anyone to bounce ideas off, and all of a sudden you're on your own doing it.
yeah.
How did that feel?
It's a bit different. And I mean, I've always been very isolated. I like being by myself, so that was not the big problem. But I did miss his enthusiasm. Whenever I sent him a demo, he was
Mm.
probably the biggest fan in the world. He
Mm.
loved it. He started bouncing off ideas for lyrics and started writing right away. He would just call me on the phone and start screaming the lyrics into the phone, even though I could barely hear anything, of course. I mean, it's a phone. But it's just the energy, you know. I missed his energy. I really missed his positive energy and his stream of conscious.
Yeah. And are you still in contact?
Yes, we're still very close friends.
That's
I
good.
would even say I'm not excluding the possibility that we're ever working again
Sure.
together
Sure.
again.
Sure.
I mean, if he's doing better, if he's doing fine, there's no reason for us to not
Yeah.
work anymore together.
So were you,
Yeah.
so we say, do you understand when I say kindred spirits when you came
Mm,
together to do that?
absolutely. We always describe ourselves as two sides of the same coin.
Mm.
We're very similar and very different at the same time.
Yeah.
That works very well in a band.
Of course, of course. Now let's get on to your latest release, Convergence, which came out, it must feel quite old now. It came out in November for the public, and you've probably been sat on it for a while before that. Now
Mm.
talk about this trilogy, because what was this whole trilogy? It was a concept, and did you always know you would write a trilogy just like George Lucas knew? Did you always know that would be the case?
Yeah. Yeah, I did, and that was also something we both agreed upon. Um, I don't know how where the idea came from, but we just felt that was the right way to go. I think it was mainly because we couldn't fit everything that we wanted to fit on the first album. It felt like a stepping stone into something else.
Yeah,
Um, so yes, we did always knew it would be a trilogy. We also kind of knew how it would end. It was mainly the step in the middle that we weren't certain about. So the
mm.
album Transience, the second one, that was the biggest blind spot for us, I would say. The
Hmm.
first one was more or less earthbound, and the last one would be the Journey of Death,
Yeah,
Convergence, Journey of Death.
yeah,
So the middle one became this time and space
yeah.
kind of journey. Yeah.
Okay. So, how do you like to write and record? What methods do you use, and how do you go about it? I mean, at
Hmm.
what part of the trilogy were you doing that on your own without him?
The writing of the music has always been on my own, with the exception of one song on Emergence. The
Right.
final song on Emergence was by Skirge. So yeah, we always did the kind of tag team thing. I would write a demo and send it to him, and he would write the lyrics. And there wasn't a lot of interaction there, I would say. I
Mm,
wouldn't say that he directly shaped the music, but like said, there's of course the energy, the interactions that
mm,
did probably make a difference.
mm,
Because especially on the first album, he helped me quite a lot in deciding what is good enough to put in this album, what is something to keep for later.
hmm.
And there were also one or two songs that I was going to scrap, where he said, "No, dude, I really want to do a lyrical. I want to do a take on this. I want to
Yeah,
show you my idea." And when he did, I agreed and I understood what he was hearing, and it ended up on the album.
yeah.
So there was that basically. Yeah.
I mean, you obviously do a lot yourself. I can see your studio now. You got
Mm.
drums, you got keys, you got guitars on the
Mm.
wall. Is everything you?
Yes, everything is me
And
exactly.
the skill to do that. Bloody hell.
It takes a couple of years.
Yeah, I was gonna say
It
it's
took a
nuts.
good. I was thinking about it this week. Someone told me that the first album was about to be 10 years old,
Oh, yeah.
which, not gonna lie, was kind of a scare to me because I didn't realize that it's been 10 years. But to make it even worse, the first album took 10 years to make, so that means this year will be my 20-year anniversary for this band.
Wow.
If that doesn't make
Wow.
someone feel older,
Yeah, that's
I
great.
don't know what does.
Wow.
So
Wow.
yeah, but that means that for the past 20 years, to some degree, I've probably been playing some instrument, and yeah, it kind of happens. It's not really something that you plan.
I mean, with everything you do and all the instruments you play and the themes behind the music, when it
Mm.
comes to being creative, do you have to get into like a special place to do it, or do
Yeah,
you just get inspired by anything at any time?
yeah, I definitely need to get into the zone, and both the benefit and the detriment is that it has to be a mental state for me, and that mental state has a lot to do with how I'm doing health wise at that time.
Yeah.
So there's times when I'm ultra depressed and I can't do anything. And the terrible thing is that that tends to be most of the time. A lot of time is wasted to that, basically. And
Okay,
I do
then
still practice. Hmm?
can I ask you this? Because obviously, you don't have to talk about it if you don't. I've read that you've got a condition called schizoaffective disorder. Is that
That's
correct?
right.
So this is your opportunity to tell us about that and tell, people who probably don't know much about that, how it is living with it, how it feels. Mental illness is such an important thing these days. Would
Yes,
you
it
mind
is.
elaborating on it?
I would actually gladly do that because some people might be struggling with it and not even realize.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Took me a couple of years. Um, so yeah, it's kind of like this up and down motion in everything, your emotional state, as well as mental capacity to determine what's real, kind
Mm,
of. When someone's fully schizophrenic, of course, as everyone knows, they might have breaks from reality. They might see things, hear things, taste things, smell things that are not there. Um, it's in that direction as well. I feel it's not as bad, but maybe that's just because I'm used to my own stuff. But I tend to get these phase shifts in which I'm either very manic and get a million ideas,
mm,
or very depressed and can't do anything. And that coincides together with, I guess you could call it magical thinking.
mm.
kind of thinking like a child. You see two things that have nothing to do with each other, and you're making a connection between them. But in the moment when you're doing that, you are 100% certain that that's the truth, that that's really how it is, and you can come to some wild conclusions doing that, maybe even dangerous conclusions, like thinking that you're immortal or that you can fly or something like that, or
Yeah.
suddenly coming to the realization, hey, I am God, or I am deaf, or something like that,
Mhm.
and everything you do is kind of tainted by that. In my case, it helps with the music because much of my music is based upon dreams and upon these mental images. So when I'm in that manic state and I'm kind of not functioning all right up there, I do tend to get a lot of ideas and I am able to write those down or record demos and stuff like that. And then I wait for that mania to end. And when I come out of it and I get to a more neutral space, I am able to filter those things and figure out what's actually worth looking at and what is just complete nonsense. And
So are you more creative, how I say, during those
mm,
episodes?
absolutely.
Is that what we're listening to?
It's a filtered version of that mania. Yes, it is. Very
Wow.
much so, I would say. Especially on this latest album, because I was by myself, there was no one else to filter me in that regard. It is kind of yeah, a trip through that manic collection of manic episodes, you could say.
How cathartic is it having the music to fall back on during this? Because not everyone's got your skill to do that. And it must be so special to be able to pump everything into that and create something from it.
It's really one of the most important things for me. And yes, it is very cathartic. I always feel like my brain is on fire when it's happening. And
Mm.
turning it into some kind of art is the only way I get to scratch that itch. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure if I wouldn't have that, I would just be running around doing things that are not good for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is cathartic. I would even say that it's medically relevant for me to do that.
Wow. And the themes that run through the music, because I mean, I love the fact that you can let the music breathe so much without
Mm.
any vocals coming in. And I love that about your music. And
Instrumentals, right?
and there's two tracks on the new album. I love the atmosphere on tracks like Gardens of the Erased and
Oh yeah.
the cinematic vibes of, say, I heard Blade Runner when I heard it, the track Becoming, right? For instance, I
Mhm.
mean, do you enjoy bringing these together as much as the heavier tracks? And is that a
Yes.
different part of your condition that you kind of like channel?
Yes. If anything, I really enjoyed doing those on this album because I've gotten more confident in being able to really put anything that I want on the albums.
Yeah, yeah,
On the
too
first
right.
album, I was a little bit more hesitant to put something like the Sea, for example, or
Yeah,
Gardens
see,
of the
yeah,
Erased.
yeah,
Those are tracks which do stand on their own, but I imagine they're not for the purest black metal fan, for
no,
example,
no,
or the
and of
super
course,
hardcore death metal fan. So I think on the first album, I was more aware that I didn't want to, how do you put it into words? I was very young at that time. I wanted to look cool. Let's just call it what it
yeah,
is, all right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, but nowadays, I feel much more that I get to do those things that I feel I need to do, even if I don't really know what people will react like.
Mm,
And a track like Gardens of the Erased or Infineon or the Sea or Becoming,
mm.
I thought there was a very big chance that people would hate it, and I put it on there anyway
I love it.
because
I love
I
it.
needed to. And you know what? The results have generally been very
Yeah.
positive. So to me, that's once again reconfirming I should do it this way.
And it's funny because obviously Dutch counterparts, Karak Angren, right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the cinematic sounds that they create. I mean, I forget his name now because he's been on the show and I forget which one it is. He creates cinematic vibes and does a lot of classical music.
Yes.
Is that something that you would choose to do in the future? Maybe do some film score or anything? Because it's there. I can hear it.
It really depends. The rule in the project itself, the rule has always been we do or I do what serves the production. So if we're doing an album or I'm doing an album, I'm still saying we. I'm so used to
Yeah, yeah,
saying
yeah,
that after
yeah,
all
yeah.
those years. I'm doing an album, and I notice at some point, okay, this really requires some strings or some symphonic elements. Then I would definitely put them in there.
Mm.
But it's not planned. Like I said, it's very based on those dreams, on that mania. So they have to be there in that mental state, or else they wouldn't be the perfect fit.
Mm.
I feel, but that's within this project.
Sure.
Outside of this project, if someone would hire me to do that, I just might. So
Yeah.
yeah.
There you go. There's a big advert there. We need to get you doing that because I can hear it now.
There's
So,
some music.
obviously you do everything yourself. I mean, did you mix and master yourself as well?
Yes, yes, it's
So
all in
I,
the
I
studio.
always ask these guys who have this amazing ability to craft a song, write it, create it, and produce it, and mix it and master it. Is is your art ever complete? Because they say that if you're doing it all yourself, is there any point where, because obviously you're doing this in your own house, I assume,
Some
is there any
studio,
time when you can actually overdo it and think, I've got to stop now, it's done,
yeah.
and then you walk away and the next morning like, maybe I listen to it again, and you can keep tweaking, and it becomes like a ever decreasing circle.
Yes.
What point do you go, right, that's it, finished, move on to the next?
You just perfectly described the circle of pain I've been in for the past 20 years. Yeah, that's absolutely the problem. That's also why the first album took 10 years. A lot of that time was exactly that, just going in circles, doing it again and again and again and again, because it's never perfect. And I think it was in that year where I became ill and I knew, okay, this has to end. I need to release this right now.
Mm,
That's when I learned to burn bridges. And
mm.
the short answer is no, it's not ever
No, it's
finished.
never finished. No,
It's
art's
never going
never
to be.
complete. That's right.
But there is a point that I've realized over time. There is a point when I noticed that I struggle to work on a song because every time I hit play, I'm not able to hit stop anymore because I'm
Right.
just enjoying it. I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
okay,
Sure.
when that happens, I stop touching it, and
Yeah.
generally there comes a point where the album is so far done that you're listening from start to end, and there isn't a single thing anymore where you think, I hate this. This bothers me every time I
That's
hear it.
it. That's it. And
One
this,
quick tip for
and
people that might be in the same position, right? What really helps is to listen passively to your work, because
yeah,
if you're paying attention, you'll always find something
of
that's bad
course.
about
Oh,
it.
yeah, yeah,
But you don't listen to other music like that, so that's not a fair comparison. I would say, like, put it in a playlist of other songs that you like.
yeah.
Read a book, read a newspaper, just browse your phone. Doesn't really matter.
Interesting.
Anything that gets your mind detached from the music that you're listening
Interesting.
to, and then when your track comes on, you will hear right away if there's a problem with it or not.
I like that.
And if there isn't, don't touch
That's good advice for any
it.
musicians listening to this. Now, one thing I was going to say, what was it? Oh, what was I going to say then? That was a really poignant question. That's it. Do you ever write tracks? So when you listen back to your tracks in that mind, do you ever listen to it from a fan's perspective? Or do you always listen to it like when I've created music in the past, I listen to it from, would I like this? And I try and detach myself. Do you listen to it like that?
I would love to, but it's really difficult,
I know it's
right?
difficult.
Like, your own baby is always special, but you're also worried about it. So like I tend to, when I consider a track finished, I just put it in a drawer somewhere and not listen to it for a couple of weeks
Yeah,
to try to get this more neutral view on it. It
sure.
usually takes like 3 seconds before you're in that old creator view
Yeah.
again, but
Yeah.
those 3 seconds can make all of the difference.
Course. Now,
And
tell me about your videos because I mean, you get a lot of inspiration and to bring your music alive with visuals, shall we say? And just for the video like the sea, which is a beautiful dedication to your mother. I
thank
mean,
you.
how do you go about? Is that all home DIY done as well, or do you get some help with that?
We had 3 videos for this album. I created those partially with an old friend of mine who is a video producer. He's the same guy who does our album art. Um, so part of it has been recorded by him. He visited me, and we built a room into this big black box, and we did a lot of takes of every instrument. Uh, the first um, the first single was "Follow the River." That one was completely recorded by him, with the
Mhm.
exception of the drums. I
Yeah,
sent him a shot of the drums afterwards because we didn't
yeah.
have time for that. Then the second video was "The Sea," and that was 50% his work, 50% mine. Namely, the ambient shots, like the shots of the sea, the shots of the banner waving in the
Yeah.
wind. That was all him
Hmm.
because he lives in a very beautiful area.
Hmm.
and the shots of the instruments on the sea were all done by me in this room right here.
Right. Amazing.
And then the third video was Infineon, and that one was completely self-made here in the
Wow.
studio.
How
That's
does it
also why there
feel?
was the weird effects on it, because it was kind of boring to watch
How does
otherwise.
it feel to create that? I mean, you are I mean, you've either got Napalm behind you and you are on your own creating the music. You're literally the most perfect DIY project. The whole thing is just,
It feels amazing. I have to admit, it's not always easy. Of course, it's an almost unbearable amount of work at times,
oh, I
but
can believe it. But the
it is a
rewards
passion.
must be strong when you're talking to people who love your music and you're getting that kind of feedback. It must be like, I've done something right. And it must be such a big pat
Exactly.
on your back.
That's 100% correct. That's usually what I really get from it. When you release that stuff, it takes on its own journey, its own life, and people send you the most amazing things. Like, people could be telling you that they were enjoying a sunset somewhere in a completely different country you'll probably never visit in your life, and
Yeah,
that's great. It makes the world. It makes the music becomes bigger than
of
yourself, and I
course.
think that's
Oh
really
yeah,
great. But
absolutely.
also, some people really send very personal stories. Like, people might be fighting cancer right now. They
Mm,
might be going into cancer treatment. Of course, that really really sucks, right? You must be so scared, and it feels so bad. And then they put on one of your songs, and it helps them fight against that monster. And it's stuff like that which really matters so much to me. Even when I have a bad day and I'm working on it, and I might be starting to hate this stuff myself,
mm,
that's what I think about, those messages, those people, what they might be doing right now.
mm.
That's bigger than me, and it feels really good to be able
I can
to
believe that. I can
deliver
believe it.
something personal to those people.
Now,
Yeah.
obviously, because you do so much and you are literally the ultimate like band guy for yourself, what do you like to do away from the band that's not music related? What do you obviously you seem like a very intelligent guy. You must sit down with a book and read and etc. etc. What do you like to do to just detach from the music?
Um, the truth be told, my brain is 80% music, so not much else. I am happily married, and we have a young kid, so a lot
Nice,
of that goes to my little family.
great,
But also, my wife and I like to play board games, and I've recently been mentioning Warhammer a lot because
yeah,
that's something we've been very much into for the last couple of years. 40K is it's a very good detachment from the world. It's a completely
mm,
different world, and there's a
yeah,
lot of stuff to gain from
oh
it.
yeah,
So
yeah.
something for everyone in there. Um, Other than that, I mean,
That's
other
okay.
side jobs. It's mostly just small stuff and
Yeah,
music and raising a family. That's the biggest things in my life right now.
with your skills, do you ever? And I don't know this answer actually myself, but I mean, do you ever bring bands in and produce bands? For money. Is that what you do on the side?
Yeah, yeah, I do. I'm actually mixing a band at the moment. I'm not sure if I can talk about them, so I won't name any names. But I am mixing a band at the moment, and I've recently also mixed a dark folk project called Turnin. That's by a friend of mine. Great project for people who are into acoustic music, by the way. So
Nice. Okay. Good. Good.
mentioning it right here. So yeah, that's something I do, and I also really like to coach people who are making their own music. And that's something, by the way, that's not a paid job. That's just something I do out of passion.
Nice.
Uh, you oftentimes get, because of the situation I'm in, people who might be into guitar playing, drumming, production, video making, doesn't matter what you're doing. I do get a lot of messages from a lot of different angles,
Mm,
uh, asking or just talking about that kind of stuff.
mm.
And some of those people are genuinely asking for help in their own stuff that they're stuck with. And I really, really love trying to give them a little bit of info and a little bit of a positive pat on the back so they can push themselves further and do their own things. Because I
Nice.
think this is really the golden age of the home producer when you think about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, are you ready for a few fun questions?
Sure.
Okay. Now,
These have been fun already.
I know. We were talking about just some silly, not silly questions, but I wanted to get a bit deeper. Here we go. If you could steal credit for any great piece of art, song, film, book, etc., what would you claim?
Oh, that's a difficult one. For the longest time, I felt that way about the Master of Puppets album.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sure if I would be able to stop myself if I had a time machine to just go 5 years earlier than that and just
I know. The
feeling the
best.
hell out of
The best.
that.
Okay, here we go. If you could have any superpower, what power would it be and why? You go back in time to sort Master of Puppets out.
I was really stopping myself from saying that. Um, I guess it would be some kind of healing thing. I would
Yeah.
really like to be able to take pain away.
Yeah.
That was my childhood dream. Take
That's,
pain away.
yeah,
Yeah.
I like that. Now, if you could choose one song to play every time you walked into a room for the rest of your life, what song would you choose and why? Here he is. Nem's here. Nem's here, everyone. And the track plays. What is it?
Act on Instinct from Command and Conquer.
Yeah, like it. Now, who will be in your rock and metal Mount Rushmore? Four artists that shaped your life from inspiration. Who would be etched in rock in a national park for you?
Could be any artist, right? Not just metal
Anyone,
artist.
anyone you want, anything, whatever, whoever would be in your. Well, I said rock and metal Mount Rushmore, but you can take it to whatever's inspired you, Mount Rushmore, whatever you like.
Exactly. Chuck from Death is an obvious choice for me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Kate Bush.
Yeah. Class.
Um,
Wuthering Heights is one of my favorite tracks of all time.
it's insanely good.
I listen to that once a week and it gets me every time. I love that track so much.
I'm so glad you say that because I always feel like, is it just me? I just
No,
can't.
no, no, no. It's because,
I think she was 19 when she made that.
well, I think she was younger. I think she was 15, 16. And the thing about that track is the fact that I'm from Nottingham in the UK, but I lived in Yorkshire for 10 years. And you just know what those moors are like, you know, and you just know and I've been to that whole area where Emily Bronte wrote Wuthering Heights, and you just know what it's like. So I get goosebumps thinking about it.
So you also have like the home connection to it that makes it
Yeah,
even.
yeah.
I don't have that here, sadly, but I do always really
And
like her.
she's a legend. She's a legend.
Absolutely. So yeah, Kate Bush, absolutely deserved position.
Yeah.
Not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but it's Jean-Michel Jarre,
Jean-Michel Jarre, French.
French
Yeah.
musician.
Yeah, very much. Popcorn.
I'm a bit slower than usual today, I
It's
have to
good. No,
admit.
it's fine. You take your time. Well, you can just be three.
The last one fell off.
Yeah. It eroded.
Like, this is the kind of question, right? As soon as this interview ends, I
You'll
will
have
come
like
up with
five.
answers right away.
I know.
It is whoever wrote the soundtrack to the game Blood. I actually don't
Right.
know his name or her name. I'm actually not sure. But
Right.
that
Okay.
one was a massive inspiration for me. So that one, yeah.
Okay. Cool. Now, what's on the bucket list for you? What do you want to achieve? Because you're not doing any live shows, are you? You've never taken
No.
this on. Would
No.
you like to, or could you not? Dare I say, could you not deal with it? I mean, you know, what's the situation?
Yeah, I think I would say, like, I think I shouldn't say I think, I should say I know because I have tried it in the past, not with this project, but with other ones. I really don't enjoy playing live. I just
Fair
don't.
enough.
For me, it's actually really hard to understand that that's considered something that most
Mm,
musicians see as their end goal.
mm,
Because to me, the process of going inward and all the
mm,
puzzling, that's really what I get from music, and you don't have
yeah.
that when you're playing live,
Mm,
unless you're a great jazz musician, of course. But
mm,
I'm not.
yeah.
So no, that's really not at all on my list. Even if I would be perfectly healthy, I don't think I would be interested in it, to be
It's funny that
honest.
because you do get a lot of great session musicians that don't go on stage.
I
You
guess
know?
I'm kind of like my own session musician.
Yeah, you're your own guy. It's fun.
Yeah.
So, what else is on the bucket list? What would you like to achieve? You know, I mean, or have you already achieved what you want to achieve? You know, what is it?
It's a bit difficult to put into words because the things that I want to achieve are kind of not from this planet.
Right. Okay.
Has a lot to do with the mental health struggles that
Mm,
I've had.
I understand.
In the mania, I've had some experiences that came very close to something I would call divine.
Right.
And
Okay.
I will try to describe the feeling. The feeling is really as if you're absolving into everything and you can feel everything. You're like kind of becoming this blanket that stretches across time and space and everything else. And you feel everything, but it's all good.
Right.
It's just perfectly neutral and fine. And that I've come close to that feeling a couple of times during the manic periods, and it feels so insanely good
Yeah.
that almost anything I could wish for on this planet feels like small in comparison.
I
And
see.
it's a little bit depressing because it also makes that I'm really not all that interested in many
Yeah.
things on the planet. I don't really travel all that much and that kind of stuff.
Mm.
So yeah, I have a very short bucket list right now. I
Yeah.
just want to keep going with this
Keep
project
going.
and
That's right.
raise my kids
Sure.
to be a happy
Absolutely.
person.
Absolutely. Now, this is not an easy, it's not an easy one to answer this. And I ask it many people who I think can answer it well. What one track do you think sums the outfit of the best? You know, a track that has so many elements. I mean, there's so many elements that you bring into your music. What one track would you say if an alien came down and said, who's Shylmagoghnar? What are they? And you say, I'm going to play you this track and that is us.
I know what people want me to say, but I'm not going to say that one.
What, okay. What is that?
People would like me to say I Am the Abyss because I think that's probably the most popular track that I've ever done.
Right.
But I don't think it's all encompassing. It doesn't have the heavy elements of the band. It's more the atmospheric and the emotional part. I think a track like Transience is probably the best fit because it
Okay.
has both the atmosphere, the heavy parts, the vocals, and the instrumental parts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think would be the fitting choice. And the first song of the new album, I Hear the Mountain Weep, would probably also
Yeah.
be a good choice for that.
Great track. Great track. Now, finally, and it's an important question, this. What's the most used emoji in your phone?
Probably just a regular smiley.
A smile. Well, Nem, it's been an
Like I'm very
absolute.
lazy with emoticons.
That's fun. I've got so many in my thing. It's ridiculous. I use them all in all day long. I'm such an emoji guy.
Instagram or Twitter, you're probably just
Oh,
using lots of horns up
it's all
and
that.
fire emojis and stuff like that.
It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you tonight. You know, thanks for your
Same.
openness. And you know, you're genius. You're a genius, right? So that's
Thanks,
good.
man.
I love that.
I
And good
wouldn't
luck.
describe myself as such, but I'm happy that you feel that way.
And good luck with 2024 and everything else going to happen with the band. And let's see what happens in the future for you.
Same to you. Many thanks for having me.